When people recall battles and wars, they speak of spectacular events, men killing each other, acts of valor and sacrifice, weapons of war destroying everything in their way. They also speak of gallantry and heroism, of men dying for their beliefs and dreams, and of brilliant tactics and strategy. When they talk of the Second World War, they speak of Generals MacArthur, Eisenhower, Rommel, and Montgomery, of Colonel Jesus Villamor and his biplane engaging Japanese Zeros in aerial combat, of Philippine campaigns. They speak of Bonifacio, Aguinaldo, General Evangelista in the fight for independence, of Filipino Generals Junicio Ojeda and Gudencio Tobias in the Korean War, and Colonel Napoleon Valeriano in the Hope Campaign. They hardly speak of the unsung heroes of war, like the U.S. Army engineers of MacArthur, hacking out roads, bridges, and airstrips on the coral reefs of the Solomons, so the great general could hop from island to island to the Philippines and Japan. They built wharves, roads, airfields under fire from the Japanese, and fought as infantry when attacked at close range. Nor of their Filipino counterparts in the Philippine theater of war, who likewise made possible troop movement in battles that called mostly for retreat at the start. Like the engineers, they also worked under enemy fire, and as infantry when retreat was no longer possible. Very few know that the Corps of Engineers built the Malinta Tunnel on Corregidor, where the Phil-American forces made their last stand in the Philippines. They also won medals and other decorations for action in combat. But such acts of heroism were lost in the great number of battles of the Pacific War. Sad, but inevitable. The engineers have been forgotten. Not too many remember the old Philippine Corps of Engineers at war. Yet, no less than MacArthur recognized the importance of the engineers, be it in war or in peacetime. He said, and I quote, "The engineers, when properly utilized, are the sharpest tools in war or peace." End of quote. President Fidel V. Ramos, himself a former general, graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, has time and again declared that the armed forces are not meant only to destroy the enemy, but also to build the nation. He has stressed the need for the military to participate in the urgent task of getting the economy back to an even keel. By this, he meant that the armed forces, aside from interdicting the insurgents who are laying the nation in waste, could also help in the rebuilding of the infrastructure upon which economic progress depends to move forward. And by the armed forces, he obviously meant the Armed Forces of the Philippines Corps of Engineers. Past presidents of the Republic have effectively employed the Army engineers in support of military operations in various ways. To encourage the surrender of Huk Balahap insurgents or Hooks, the first insurgent force to threaten the stability of the state after the Great War. President Magsaysay offered them resettlement centers in Mindanao. These were built by the Army engineers. The thriving town of Buldon in Cotabato is a shining example of the success of Magsaysay's project to appease the farmers of Central Luzon, who had risen up in rebellion against the feudal land ownership system. Succeeding presidents of the Republic, notably President Marcos, who was faced not only by another communist insurgency, but also by a Muslim secessionist movement, looked to the Corps of Engineers for the support. They built roads not only to give the military units access to the camps of the rebels, but also to enable those in places controlled by the New People's Army to bring their produce to markets. They rebuilt the houses damaged in the conflict and thus alleviate the suffering of the victims and keep them from joining the insurgency. Only those who are helped by them directly know and appreciate the work they have been doing up to the present. That is inevitable. The primary function of the Corps is to build, not destroy. It only fights when necessary.
More and more the armed forces is into the role in the economic development program of the government. And so we have engineers building roads, building schoolhouses, and medical centers. And more there are units that are involved in the protection of our forests.
What then is the AFP Corps of Engineers? When the Philippine Commonwealth was established in 1935, preparatory to the grant of independence by the United States to its colony, the Army had only an engineering section in its headquarters. Its main function was to maintain the Army's buildings and facilities. Following the passage of Commonwealth Act No. 1, better known as the National Defense Act of 1936, the small unit was upgraded into a corps with the following mandate. The Corps of Engineers is in charge of all the construction required for the national defense, including land and sea coast defense, with the maintenance and repair of all such constructions, and with the maintenance and operations of all utilities as may be specifically assigned to other services by the Chief of Staff. Still, the Corps remained mainly skeletal, its responsibilities limited. Its undermanned units were patterned after the United States Army combat battalions, and these were attached to the various fighting battalions. Then the clouds of war loomed over the horizon, and the Corps was beefed up to be able to build military training camps and other military facilities needed in case war came. Malinta Tunnel was one of such facilities, later used by MacArthur in directing the defense of the Bataan Peninsula. The puny Philippine Air Force sallied forth with their biplanes, two-winged light aircraft that were no match to the Japanese fighters protecting their bombers like butterflies fighting eagles. The fledgling Philippine Naval Force, composed mostly of tiny patrol boats called the Mosquito Fleet, could not stem the invasion either. Japanese forces landed in Vigan and Lingayen, then drove south towards Manila and eventually to Bataan. The Japanese laid a siege on the Bataan Peninsula, and all the defenders could do was fight back from lines that slowly shortened each day until General MacArthur fled to Australia and General Wainwright surrendered the combined American and Philippine armies to the enemy. Caught in the maelstrom were the poorly equipped Philippine Corps of Engineers. Their mission now concentrated in fighting, not building. Gallantly they fought as infantry. When the dust of battle settled, the Corps was scattered. Most of the heroic and gallant deeds of the Corps officers and men went unrecorded in the heat of battle. And even when the din of combat died down, the troops who survived were so scattered to honor their heroes. It was not until 1946 that the Corps of Engineers was reactivated. The Philippines had already gained its independence from the United States, and it was on its own. There was a lot of rehabilitation work to do. So many damaged posts, camps, and stations to rebuild. So many military installations to establish. On top of that, Magsaysay availed of its services in the fight against the rebellion of the peasants of Central Luzon, the so-called Hooks. With their guerrilla force during the war as their spearhead and communism their battle cry, the Hooks at one point got close to the gates of Manila. Magsaysay used the Army engineers to build relocation sites in Mindanao for those who surrendered, and roads and school buildings in far-flung areas so that the neglected rural folk would not fall prey to the blandishments of the Hooks. Thus was born an engineer forestry company in October of 1958 to produce prefabricated schoolhouses in its own sawmills and plants. The current communist insurgency and the Muslim secessionist movement in Mindanao have added extra functions and responsibilities to the Corps of Engineers. Like in the anti-hook campaign, only more so, the Army engineers perform their functions in insurgent-held or influenced areas. They do not have to contend only with building roads and mending damaged buildings under threat of fire and among disillusioned people. Sometimes they have to act as infantry to defend themselves. In performing their functions, they contribute heavily to the pacification drive of the government. What is the AFP Corps of Engineers like today?
We are all the more prepared to undertake the task that will be given to the Corps of Engineers. Well, I would say for the personnel resources that we have, our personnel have been properly equipped with the various experiences they have in their own field of specialization. And on the side, they continuously go on following up on their training programs. That's why I would say that our personnel are always prepared to undertake the projects. On the equipment, I believe that we still have adequate equipment with expected deliveries of a few more units within this calendar year.
It is a force of 405 officers, 4,888 enlisted men, and a complement of 200 civilians commanded by Commodore Pablo Perez and his staff. Its major units are the 51st, 52nd, 53rd, 54th, and 55th Engineer Brigades distributed all over the country. In areas where the brigades need support, they have the 525th Engineer Battalion, Philippine Army, the 355th Engineering Wing of the Philippine Air Force, and Naval Construction Brigade of the Philippine Navy. Like the other units of the armed forces, the Corps is undermanned and under-equipped.
The military leadership is well aware of the present state of the AFP Corps of Engineers, and in their plans and programs, they have inputted the appropriate activities that will enhance our capabilities, so will be far more effective from our present state.
The manpower component of the engineer operating units are undermanned to the tune of 32.83%, and the enlisted men to 28.73%. While the present fill-up of engineering equipment is only 35.95%. Out of the 675 pieces of equipment, only 369 are serviceable, roughly one-half. In spite all these inadequacies, however, the Corps performed incredibly well in the years 1990 to 1993. It was able to complete the following: 379.716 kilometers of He has the Deputy Chief of Engineers and Executive Officer to assist him in carrying out the duties and responsibilities assigned to him. The Chief Comptroller, meantime, is tasked with developing and preparing the budget of the office. Managing the buildup, maintenance, and utilization of engineer supplies and equipment is the focus of the Administration and Logistics Division Chief. To ensure and evaluate the strategic value and implication of all construction for national defense, the Plans and Operation Division Chief coordinates with the Department of Public Works and Highways, the Philippine Ports Authority, and other government agencies. Planning and designing proposed construction projects, as well as preparing specifications, bill of materials, and cost estimates, conducting survey, and preparing technical design features is the turf of the Project Management Division Chief. The Real Estate Management Division Chief manages and administers acquisition and disposition of real estate under the control of the AFP. Measures to develop and conserve forest resources within military reservation is the responsibility of the Special Project Division Chief. From the construction branch. The repairs and utilities branch inspects and evaluates implementation of repair utilities. Maintaining and safeguarding records and documents concerning AFP real estate done by the administration, personnel, and legal branch. While formulating policies, plans, and procedures on acquisition of real estate by the AFP is handled by the management and acquisition branch. Quality control of all projects being undertaken is effected by the Project Support Branch. Plans and programs of special projects are implemented by the Special Project Branch. Plans, policies, and guidelines in the implementation of the National Forestation Program of the government are carried out by the Forestry Branch. Its priority: the reforestation of denuded forest areas within military reservations and the protection of forests. The members of the Corps of Engineers are not satisfied with their achievements. They know they can do more. They know they are capable of doing more. They want to have greater participation in the effort at nation building.
The clearing of flat field. And they have done a very efficient job. It is the expenses is very low, and the job has been properly done. So, in my own opinion, I think even in the rehabilitation of not only in Clark, but also in the Pinatubo rehabilitation and the construction of dikes. They should be involved. As a matter of fact, I was the one who asked the commission, Mount Pinatubo Commission, to award to them the site development of one of our resettlement project, which is in Mawake, Barrio Mawake.
They are already making good their motto: to build, not destroy; to bring happiness, not sorrow. Given the necessary support of the people and government, they could make good their boast. The impossible we accomplish immediately. The miracles take a little time.
Over the mountains, across the rivers, and through the forests thick and wide, down the valleys and along the seashore, we engineers will keep our stride. With blocks and tackles, with ropes and gin poles, our